So yeah, give them a chance. People should give people a chance. I think deep down now, where we are now in the space, people are accepting the fact that divorce does exist. The stigma 20 years ago was raw, but I think it's started to fizzle away, and people have realised if you're divorced, big deal. So what?
Just going back to a point that Abdurrahman you made earlier, and then we can start with closing remarks. I think it's so. My own reflections have always been that maybe I'm giving a parental trigger warning now. That maybe it's the fact that people have a perception of I'm going to get married to a virgin, and that's the barrier. But then the same people will be okay marrying a widow so. In my head, it's always and again it may be a regional variation. And like you said, Snain, for a divorcee to marry another divorcee, people seem to accept. But when if you've not been married before, you're talking about it to your parents. You said the divorce element would be the last thing you mention. The reason that would be is because you immediately know there's going to be a reaction to the divorce point. I know if I had that conversation with my parents or elders in our side of the community, that would be an immediate point that people would start picking up on, either in the immediate family or the extended family. Do you think, Abdurrahman, from your perspective, that from obviously where your geographical community is from, there has been a barrier for people? And if so, how can people overcome that? And again, back to you, Abdurrahman. A barrier in terms of people pursuing conversations with people. I know you mentioned divorce. It would be a showstopper. I want to marry a divorcee. But again, it does depend on the context.
Yeah, yeah. I think if you look back at it 20 years ago, then I think that probably would be a barrier, right? Whether you're talking about divorce or anything else, anything that's considered controversial, you usually keep a lid on it as much as possible. Because back then, issues of divorce did happen, but they weren't as
Publicized.
they weren't as publicized and out in the open as perhaps they are now, right? So therefore, if you were getting divorced, you were in the minority for doing that, and that meant going back to the whole issue around stigma. There was something attached to that, and there was a fear attached to that as well. There's certain topics you just simply couldn't talk about. I think nowadays, I don't know. I mean, I don't have any experience necessarily of that now, but now that divorce has just become a lot more publicized and it has become a lot more frequent, I would imagine that cultural attitudes are shifting because they simply have to. Because it's the reality of the situation, isn't it? Even if you look at going slightly off topic, how youth are today versus how they were, back when we were growing up. The world we're living in a completely different world, a completely different reality, and whether we like it or not, cultures have to shift, right? I think there's also an aspect around, sometimes, you would have different attitudes depending on which part of Pakistan you came from. So the northern part might be very, very strict, and other parts may be a bit more liberal, as it were. Again, I think nowadays the lines are just becoming so blurred that distinction is a lot less now. There might be a certain generation that is really holding on to those principles very, very hard, and some of those principles might be good, some of them may be not so good, right? But I think on the whole, it's a different world, it's a different reality, and things are changing, and attitudes have to change as well.
Definitely. And closing remarks from you.
Well, my closing remarks would be simple. Divorce or going through divorce is a difficult period for both the husband and the wife, children if they're involved, and families. Nobody wants to see an end to any form of relationship. But then I do live in the real world, and I do realize that when things are not working and you've tried absolutely everything within your power. Now, let me reiterate what I've just said, everything in your power, because I feel once you've exhausted all avenues to make things work and they still don't work, then the best thing to do is to be amicable and just have a clean break. That's just a term that they use in divorce. But you have a clean break and you just say to each other and say, right, okay, I've tried my best, you've tried your best. I have no animosity within my heart against you, and vice versa, I don't have for you. So you have that conversation as adults, because you are adults when you are married, and you just walk away. Because if you have children in the mix, then it gives them a chance to be happy with the mum and happy with the dad. It's just when you hold grudges against and then you end up breaking those ties, that's where the problems stem from. But yeah, divorce is real, and my heart goes out for those individuals who are going through it, because it's a nasty place to be. And for those who are supporting them, make sure you do support people who are going through divorce, because it's a lonely place to be. Sit with them, talk to them, ring them up. Don't be too much in the space, but try your best to be that shoulder for them to lean on. Because like I said, when you are in that position, you feel as though the whole world's against you, your world's caving in. But be that support network. And I think in this day and age, we have got support networks out there. There are groups out there that actually help people who are going through that. And then help them to the certain extent where they start finding their way. I had a friend who helped me get through when I went through it, who really pulled me out of the darkness. And I'm not going to mention him, but I remember specifically him saying to me, saying, "Look, you're still the same guy I know. You need to get back into the gym. Things don't work out. So what? Deal with it. We need to deal with it." And he really molded me back into the person I was and remolded me, sorry. And I'm here. And when I hear people going through divorce, I am honestly an ear out for them. I want to be that person who really helps them because it does exist. And everybody's situation is different. And we should take each situation as different and not paint it with the same brush and say, "Oh, well, I went through this and you should go through." No, 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 no. We're all different. We all have our own ways of processing information differently. And we should be actively listening to them rather than giving advice straight away. So when somebody speaks to me, I listen to the point when I'm ready to give a point, and I would say, "Are you okay for me to share that point?" And I think that comes with wisdom. When I'm 40 now, my way of thinking is totally different to when I was 25. I would jump into situations straight away. Now I'm like, if you want me to speak, I'll speak. If not, I'll stay silent. So yeah, all those people going through divorce, I hope it works out for you and you try to save your marriage. And if it doesn't work out, well, I hope it works out for you in the future as well, because it's a nasty place to be. And I don't want everybody else, I want people to support, especially your family, your friends, to be that support network. And and there is no stigma attached on my end. I just think we need to walk away from that. We need to brush ourselves from it and think, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and be grown up about it, because there's still a person behind that divorce. If they are divorced, there's still that person that you knew them years ago before they got married. They're still that same person. Just because they've been married, don't let that be like a chain to them. So wherever they go, it's like a dark cloud following over them. No, make that cloud into a rainbow and forget about it, and just treat them for who they are. Trust me, there's a lot of good people, divorcees out there who want to get married. And if you can entertain that idea, entertain it. I'm telling you now, there are gems of people out there. That's my closing statement.
Beautiful words. Thank you both. And I think it's worth that we've started a conversation now. It'll be worth coming back to this and hearing from a female perspective. But that can be one for the future, guys. Thank you so much. Until the next time. Speak soon.
Take care.